Pro Football Report, presented by National PAL. Support National PAL at nationalpal.org.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Pro Football Report on ADSN, and welcome to Mercedes-Benz Stadium here in downtown Atlanta, where the Panthers are set to take on division rival, the Atlanta Falcons, who are building up momentum after wins against the Jets and most recently the Miami Dolphins, thanks to a late field goal by Gu. On the other side, the 3-4 Panthers have struggled over the last 4 games, racking up 4 straight losses as they look for continuity as well as wins. But before we dig in, let's get into the ADSN injury report. This week was more of the same for Carolina. They added more names to the IR list, with John Miller's ankle injury suffered against the Giants, and Davion Nixon out for the season with a knee injury. But the good news is Shaq Thompson may see action today. Cam Irving is back as well after missing the Giants matchup because of an illness. Plus, the countdown begins for Stephon Gilmore to enter the fray, so it looks like help is on the way for these Carolina Panthers. Now let's take a look at some other important numbers. The Panthers are way off from the numbers they posted on offense since their last win in Week 3, sliding all the way from the top 20 to now 26th in the net passing yards per game, as well as a drop in third down efficiency. Darnold and the Panthers offense will have to work today to earn back some respect from fans who have been very vocal about it, and not in a good way. So the Carolina Panthers offense has struggled over the last few weeks, but the defense has weathered the storm quite well over the last few weeks. Now they add Stephon Gilmore. Not sure of how much he will get, how much action he will get if he plays today, but they have him, and now they're able to level up from losing J.C. Horn. So now you get to shut down that side of the field. While having some difficulty defending against the rushing attack, the Panthers defense has remained second in the NFL, holding opposing QBs to just over 197 yards per game. That's mainly due to the play of Hassan Reddick and Brian Burns up front, who've combined for 10.5 sacks this season, while the team has a total of 18. Soon that number could improve with Stephon Gilmore into the lineup, because when the corners can keep those receivers busy, the QB becomes a sitting duck back there, and that's just magic for those guys who are rushing the passer. Now we're going to jump around a little bit, some offense, some defense. But last week, Coach Rule pulled the plug on Sam Darnold in the fourth quarter, added P.J. Walker. But he didn't fare much better. Now, many speculate that things won't get better until they find answers with the offensive line. They gave up 6 sacks against the Giants. But some are starting to speculate that while Darnold has a big arm and the ability to remain the starter, he may have other demons. Darnold has only 4 touchdowns in the last 4 games, but has 7 interceptions in that same time frame. So this week, ADSN analyst Mark Wright got to connect with Dr. John Murray to see what other issues may be dampering Sam Darnold.
The Carolina Panthers dropped to 3-4 and slid under the 500 mark for the first time this season after their loss to the New York Giants. Team representatives continue to communicate that they have to be more accountable and more consistent despite a decline in performances, particularly on offense.
You know, with the defense we have, if we can just run the football and protect the football, we'll win games. I mean, the formula is pretty simple. It's just not being executed, and that's why I'm focused right now on trying to get it executed this week.
Some critics attribute the downfall largely to quarterback Sam Darnold's poor critical decision-making, as well as his inability to effectively go through progressions as a key factor affecting the team-wide efforts to play complementary football. Others have speculated that it may be more of a psychological issue, specifically his ability to see the task beyond the moment. In the sports evaluation process, this type of issue is known as performance anxiety. ADSN analyst Mark Wright recently spoke with renowned sports psychologist Dr. John F. Murray about the effects of pressure on top-level players. Dr. Murray was able to shed light on the struggles of athletes and coaches whose routine response is to focus on the physical failure versus the psychological side.
When teams struggle and players are asked to to play with a sense of urgency and then turn that into action. Is it as simple as saying it and or practicing, or does something else need to happen on the psychological side, on the player side, in his own head for that to actually happen and come to fruition?
Well, it always has to happen within the player's head. And some players do it naturally. Some players have been trained to do it better. And then you got a number of players that either aren't getting regular training or didn't really learn that. And that's the difference between good and great. So you have the Tom Brady's of the world that have, for whatever reason, are doing that and playing with urgency and being resilient and focused. And then you have other players who maybe aren't, they might have enormous talent. They may have better talent than another player, but they may not have that same mental acuity, mental strength. And that's where I come in as a sports psychologist. And the panic is always bad. And so you can call that pressure, you can call that anxiety, or whatever you want to call it. But that's, urgency is good. You know, nervousness with excited urgency is good. And you're right. It's a thin line.
Dr. Murray did not speak specifically about or diagnose Sam Darnold because he has not been authorized to do so. But Murray is a clinical and sport performance psychologist who first introduced the concept of scoring the mental side of a sport and developing the MPI, or Mental Performance Index, for American football.
Many times I've been talking about this, and I work with this daily, is when it has to do with a number of things. Number one is focus. If the focus gets too internalized, so you're thinking about yourself, you're thinking about how you're performing. The field goal kicker that's, gets iced by the coach calling a timeout at the last second and then misses the crucial kick. Like we had 5 or 6 misses in a row in a game a couple weeks ago. So the internal focus needs to go to an external focus. So we have to get them focusing more outward on the contact point of the ball, for example, not thinking about their own thoughts. Number two is a sense of ease and a sense that it's not a big moment. The idea that it's a big moment might be true, but it's also subjective in that player's mind. So we have to almost play as if it's a backyard football game and not a Super Bowl championship. Number three is a deep sense of relaxation. So allowing the muscles to be relaxed, the mind to be loose. So those three combined tend to be what I'm shooting for when I try to help somebody avoid panic or to avoid anxiety or to avoid choking. So you got to know the player, you got to know how they tick. And then in addition to having the basic knowledge and the skills to change behavior, you need to understand how to adapt it to that person's individual needs. That's what I do. There's a number of reasons why you might fail. I've read a lot of articles on failure. People always talk about success, but you have to also understand there's a difference between choking and overanalyzing and panic where you don't really think at all and you're grasping for straws. There's also just pure technical flaws.
But in some cases, the athlete may have to deal with the simultaneous issues unrelated to what he's thinking.
There's injuries. That's something we sometimes underestimate. I've had a lot of NFL players in my office. When I find out the real truth, they were dealing with an injury. It wasn't really a mental skill. So I'm humble enough to know that it can sometimes be physical. It doesn't have anything to do with mental. But there is a distinct difference between the GOATs, the Tom Brady's, I don't want to call Patrick Mahomes that yet, but he could become that. So there's a lot of great quarterbacks now in the NFL. But there's a difference between that ability to, again, going back to what I said earlier, make the important moment not that important. Make it just an average situation. Take that Olympic moment and turn it into a practice.
You got millions of people watching on TV. You got 60,000 people in the arena. How do you convince or get a player to say, hey, it's a big moment, but think of it as not a big moment, and chances are you'll be successful?
You don't start with a big moment. Secondly, it's not what I say, it's what they do. So, for example, I will spend hours in imagery with a player. Imagery is just another fancy word for making movies in your mind or visualization. I always tell people this: it's not what I know, it's not what you know, it's not the knowledge. That's the frontal lobe of the brain working on the analytics. Okay, we got to get beyond that. We got to create a habit that is so well rehearsed that it just comes out in the heat of battle. A lot of people in the media say, and that is to focus on winning. We don't control winning, we control performance.
For me, it's slowing it down. I want everything to kind of be rhythmic and a little bit slow. Slower is not a great term, but that's kind of the word that I've been using, is more on rhythm and a little bit slower than what I've been doing the last few weeks.
So 2 things. Number 1, get it automatic in imagery or visualization. Number 2, focus more on process elements, not not outcome elements like winning and losing. It's easy to do that. And that's why you have to assess. The evaluation always precedes good clinical or good mental coaching work. And if I see that they have a tendency to take urgency and turn it into pressure, they're making a fatal flaw. They're never going to make it. Most players don't make it, if you think about it. It's actually unique to be a Tom Brady. It's really rare to be somebody like Joe Montana. So absolutely, I would want to find out what's going on in their head.
Well, great job, Mark. That gives us a little bit more insight on some of the things that could possibly be going on with Sam Darnold. But for more on this Carolina Panthers offense and how they can correct some of those issues, let's check in with ADSN analyst Charles Arbuckle.
You can blame it on Sam Darnold, who went back to MetLife Stadium, where he didn't play particularly well with the Jets. At times, he showed some flashes. I am really starting to see a regression in the offensive line play, and starting to wonder if Joe Brady doesn't quite know how to manage Sam after those first 3 games. They played pretty well in those wins, but now at the losses, you're seeing sacks. You're seeing just a discombobulated offense. And I'm starting to also wonder if Sam's decisions are that he's rushing everything and that the offensive line hasn't made plays for him. We talked a lot about the tight ends. The tight ends aren't the problem. It seems like this offensive system is just not working for everybody. Of course, you're missing Christian McCaffrey, who is a key component. And when you make an offense and you design it around him, you expect to see him there. The other thing is sometimes getting away from the run seems to be one of those issues as well. Getting a little bit enamored with the pass, which can happen when you have some really quality receivers on the outside. I think they're going to have to get back to basics and really help this offensive line settle down. It's going to be interesting to watch this week what happens and how they're going to get ready. But right now, they're in a dogfight. They have to get prepared. They have to get ready. They have to figure out how to get this thing going. Defense played pretty well, but the offense just does not look comfortable. And I'll say this, having played with Jeff George and a guy that got sacked a lot in his early career, Sam Darnold is starting to look like he's looking for the sackers as opposed to looking for his receivers. Let's see if he can get that out of his head, start playing much better, and start to understand where to get the ball out and get it out quickly. And that offensive line, you have to protect. You have to make sure that you don't let that guy get hit as many times as he has. If those things can come back, I think this offense has a chance because they have weapons on the outside. Now they have to just be able to get the quarterback to get the ball to them.
Now these two teams have met 52 times over the years, and the Falcons have a 33-19 advantage in the series. And although they split the 2020 series, the last regular season game belonged to the Falcons, who walked away with the 25-17 win. Now, if you're looking for an interesting story today, the most interesting matchup today will be with Jeremy Chinn and how he matches up and how he handles Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is a young tight end. He's been on fire recently, doing a lot of great things for this team. His role is increasing every week. Falcons quarterback Matt Ryan has made good use of his weapons this season, including Calvin Ridley, Russell Gage, and the rookie tight end, who's putting up big numbers so far. And so far, Pitts has 31 receptions for 471 yards and a touchdown. So he is being utilized very well in the Falcons offense compared to the Panthers, whose tight ends have only 22 receptions combined. Right tackle Caleb McGarry is back from the COVID-19 list, which will help normalize things for the Falcons on the right side. The Panthers will also have to face one of their offseason decisions in Mike Davis in conjunction with the Falcons' leading rusher, Cordell Patterson, whose role is growing this year. He's one of their biggest threats, who also has 8 career kickoff return touchdowns, tied for the most in NFL history. Now, as we turn the page to the defensive side of the ball, let's check in with ADSN analyst Kevin Casey, who's got more on that.
All right, well, it's a little brisk out here, even in hot Atlanta, but it's a little cold Atlanta this morning here. But I can tell you, good breakdown on how Carolina offensively stacks up against the Falcons. But, you know, for Carolina, it all starts at the line of scrimmage, and Grady Jarrett is not just widely regarded, he's just wide. And he's going to take up a lot of attention between the guards. The guards, both guards and center, are going to have to pay a lot of attention to Grady Jarrett. He's a large man, and he's going to cause a lot of disruptions. He's going to command double teams, which is going to lead to single blocking on the outside. Sam Darnold has been known to get happy feet, and not just the Penguin movie. He's getting happy feet in the backfield because he's getting sacked a lot and hit a lot, and that's leading to a lot of frustrations, early throws, high throws, and guys are getting hit hard. Now, also in that one thing that Carolina needs to do other than neutralize Grady Jarrett, if you stop Grady Jarrett, you're going to have a good day. But defensively, the Falcons are going to put their number one corner, A.J. Terrell, on Carolina's number one wide receiver, D.J. Moore. If D.J. Moore can get going, if Sam Darnold can get time, and he can find D.J. Moore with A.J. Terrell, Carolina's going to have a good day offensively. Once they open up the passing game with D.J. Moore, expect a hard dose of running from the Panthers throughout the rest of the game.
And as always, we can't get set for any Carolina Panthers game on ADSN until we go over our keys to the game. And guess what? I got some more for you. So, key number one, limit Kyle Pitts. Shut him down if possible, but this guy is a beast this year. Jeremy Chin will have his hands full, as we said before, but that's going to be a key factor in this game. Key number two, the Panthers have to institute the run more often. Matt Rule is looking for 33-plus touches a game. They'll have to reach that and probably some more on top just to make it through today's game. They've got to get the running game up to speed. That's going to be key for them today. And as it's been for the last few weeks, key number three, don't beat ourselves. That seems to be the biggest hurdle they've had to climb yet. So those are my keys to the game for a Carolina Panthers win today. Remember to check back on ADSN after the game for all of your post-game analysis and information and feature content that'll be coming up. So for everybody here at ADSN from Mercedes-Benz Stadium here in Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Kevin Tolbert. See you after the game.